if people don't know how you are, they cannot help you.
Teacher's like, okay, everybody, all right, pop quiz time. We're going to do the vocabulary to it. And I just yell out, wait, I got to make my cheat sheet.
I like to joke that I make my living throwing away dead people's sex toys.
I can guarantee you there is nothing you have felt that I haven't felt.
Yeah, and I am a formerly miserable person.
Anxiety is the rattling of the lid on the pot of boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's connected, like me letting go of the past, me not hanging on to my anger, me like trying to become a present being.
You're not in your peak dieting phase now.
I mean, I was only in it for like a quick 6 minutes on a car ride once because I was in between.
Can we stop for snacks?
Yeah, I was equidistant between two fast food places.
So that if I'm in a situation with like my older daughter and she says something hurtful to me, like you're wearing a lot of statement jewelry right now.
In the very, very niche world of American ghost towning, my dad is a minor celebrity.
Well, we have 50% of the country's in dire poverty, is in homelessness. You know, LA is
50% of the country is in homelessness? That seems like not a correct statistic. Hi there, my name is Sean Conroy. I'm a writer and a comedian living in Los Angeles, California, in a little area called Hollywood. Maybe you've heard of it. In 2010, I started a podcast with 3 friends. I think we described it as something like a voyage through the terrors and tribulations of everyday life. Sounds fun, right? We called it The Long Shot after a Charlie Chaplin quote about how life is a tragedy in close-up, but everything is funny in the long shot. Of course, a lot of people misunderstood and thought the long shot referred to our chances at success, or maybe our gambling addictions. We ended up calling it the Long Shot Podcast, which to me was like calling a TV show the blank TV show. Like instead of The Sopranos, it would be The Sopranos TV show. Or instead of Law and Order, it would be Law and Order television program. We did that podcast for a decade, and over time, some people started to listen. Not a lot, not like a fuck ton. Yes, I said it. But the ones who did listen were incredibly devoted and extremely kind. And we started to get emails and messages from them. And a common theme of these emails and messages was, thanks, you guys. I was miserable, but listening to you guys made me happier. You guys really got me through a tough time. A relative died. I was depressed. I was unhappy. I was sad. I was lonely. And you guys helped me. You made me happier. But after 10 years, I think it was somewhere around 387 episodes, not to be too specific, we decided it was time for that show to end. So we did one final episode. Our guest on that episode was an old friend who had been on the show many, many times before, the very funny comedian Jen Kirkman. So that was it. It was over. The Long Shot Podcast was done. But I missed doing it, and I wanted to start another podcast. And I thought about how all those people talked about how they were miserable and how the podcast helped. And I thought about how miserable I was on a regular basis and how the podcast helped. And I thought, what if I focused the new podcast on that, on getting happier? So that's what I've decided to do. And it is this. This is it. This is the first episode. My first ever guest is a very funny comedian. She's written for Chelsea Lately and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's been on TV a million times. She's appeared on Conan, Lights Out with David Spade. She's done some great episodes of Drunk History, where she was drunk. She has several comedy specials available on Netflix. She tours the country and the world constantly. She has appeared on numerous episodes of a very famous and prestigious podcast called The Long Shot Podcast, which is a podcast. She was even on the final episode of that show. She has a great podcast herself called Having Funlessness. She's also an old friend. Her name is Jen Kirkman. And by the way, on this show, I'm going to get into a lot of big ideas. What happiness actually is, what it means to people, whether or not it's important, how people can achieve it on a regular basis or all the time or just a little more often if that's even possible. Big stuff. We're going to talk about that every episode. But Jen and I started with a very small concept. Not even very small, I would say minuscule, perhaps even petty. Here's the very first episode of Sean Conroy Gets Happier with my guest, Jen Kirkman. There's a thing that people do now that, well, here's what it is. So I go up to the counter to buy a thing, and the person behind the counter says one of two variations of the same thing.
Oh, I already know, and I hate it.
But they're very different.
Oh, okay.
The first one is, how's it going?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
And the second one is, how's your day going?
I hate that. Do you get?
I agree.
How's your day going so far? I always get that.
Yeah, how's your day going so far?
Who
And
cares?
I'm like, do you really want to know how my day is going so far?
No.
I can roll through the whole thing and just the ups and the downs and, give you a whole accounting.
Yeah.
But don't ask me that. Because if you go, how's it going? I don't really know what it is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just a pleasantry.
Yeah.
It's like saying, hey, and then I can just say, hey, back.
Yeah.
And then we're done.
Yeah.
But if you go, how is your day going? It's forcing me to do two things. It's forcing me to think about how my day is going.
Yeah.
Which oftentimes it's not what I was hoping for. And it's forcing me to articulate that in some way.
Right. Or lie.
Or just go, good.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, it's lying.
It feels wrong, but that's because I'm like, that's the other thing too. Like, is it lying or are we being sensitive? But I don't like that question either. And I'm a big fan of...
It's just one word, but it feels totally way worse to me.
You've been to Australia, yes?
I've been to Australia, yes.
Okay. Do you know, would they say, how are you going? That's their greeting at the counter. And it makes no sense, and I love it. How are you going?
When I was there, they said throw another shrimp on the Barbie all the time.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Oh, that must have been the 80s.
And they were like, why did you open Outback Steakhouse? That makes no sense.
But you opened Outback Steakhouse?
They meant Americans. Why did you Americans open Outback Steakhouse?
You're like, well, but people don't know that you did open it.
Yes, that I was the first franchisee.
Yeah. We opened...
Throw some boomerangs on the wall, Steve.
On the wall. But I think, people are, and that brings me to something that's a little off topic, but what they're doing,
thank God,
is considered nice. And I don't think that's nice.
To say, how's your day going?
Yeah, I don't think it's nice. That's why I like Trader Joe's. They engage you in what you're buying.
I love those banana chips.
It's a little bit crazy, but at least it's about the thing we're doing.
Light bulbs. I didn't even know we had those.
I didn't either. If they really do, that's groundbreaking. I would say I'm okay. I'd say I'm happy. I'm not. I'm either content or I'm happy, and I don't know which one it is.
I think that's right. So that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as being both of those things at the same time? In other words, you feel okay, and that's a general state of happiness. Or is there a thing where you're like, I'm okay, but it should be better?
I don't have that, although I mean, obviously I do, but I feel like even a super everything on paper is good person might feel that way. I'd say I'm happy, but I'm not content.
You're not content?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so. And it could be better. Like I feel like it's hard to, okay, I'll give you an example.
Right.
I have legitimate depression and anxiety, which I don't consider happiness or not happiness. That's a separate
issue.
Disease, yeah. Now, as a woman, you may not relate to this, but since we have all the reproductive parts and issues and periods and cramps,
You lost me.
we have a different body.
I'm on a different page.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might want to, you can check out.
Google it.
But check out right now as I'm talking and just like sing a song in your head and then I'll nod when you can come. So sometimes when we have a stomach ache, we don't actually know if it's our digestion or if it's our lady parts because it's all in the same area. So it's almost that way if you're a depressive where it's like, am I unhappy or is this the depression? I do believe they are two different things.
And because they're separate, they are unrelated to each other?
I think so. I think sometimes if I'm a little unhappy because there is a circumstance, my depression might go, hey, where's the party? Let me latch on and try to drag you down more or something. But I've realized lately that where I thought I was unhappy, it was my anxiety talking to me, or times when I thought I was happy, it didn't feel good because I still had this depression. You know, they influence each other or they can ruin each other's day. But just because I'm happy doesn't mean I'm not suffering from something anxious that day or something depressive.
So you're saying that you're a woman.
But that's separate then.
Okay.
That was just an analogy.
You're saying that it's I mean, I think this is what you just said. It's possible to be depressed and happy at the same time.
I believe so.
Can you think of any instances where that was true?
Like right now, that's kind of how I feel.
You're a little depressed.
Yeah, like it's my disease, you know? And it's, but I'm quite, like I'm smiling. It's so good to see you. And
it's not an act.
No, and I'm like glad to be here. This feels good. But underneath it all, my little depression is buzzing. And so, you know, this weekend, for example, I'll have to tend to the depression, whether or not I feel happy. I can't just ignore it. And so I may have to just make sure to have good self-care. You know, maybe this isn't a weekend where I go party, not that you know what I mean.
Like every other weekend.
You know me, I'm always partying. But, you know, I might need to sleep more or not eat crappy or make sure to exercise, you know, something like that. I can't just go, I feel that little hum underneath, that little subway rolling through my system deep underground. Oh, but I feel happy tonight, so it's fine. I'll ignore it. When I do that,
you don't want to ignore it because it might get worse.
Yeah, and then I just don't know what end is up. But I do think, you know, I've had moments in life where it just depends. Like the notion that external circumstances can't make you happy, I don't think is true. Of course they can. I've had that before.
In the moment.
They can't, you know, make you a centered, grounded, good person. They can't change your spiritual core.
That comes from inside.
Yeah, but
your core comes from inside.
I think so. Yeah. I'm not good with anatomy, Sean. But I do think that you're, and I do think happiness, you can choose it if you want. Like you can act as if you're happy until it actually catches on and you feel happy.
Act as if?
Yeah. Until you feel it, you know, like in other words, I don't want to, let's say I go, I'm not happy, but I have to go to this party. I'm not going to walk around the party advertising, I'm not happy. You know, I'll just get into it and it might actually change.
I do. I actually rent space at parties to tell people that I'm not happy.
You're like a booth?
Yeah.
Well, I think that, you know, happiness to me is it doesn't run very deep. It's sort of like I don't know how to explain it.
Like a stream, not a river?
Yes, like a stream, not a river, like a stream, not an ocean. And so you might go, I'm happy, but you call the person tomorrow. That doesn't mean the happiness lasted.
Right. And with a stream, you could choose to step into it, or you could just step right over it.
Oh, true.
Whereas a river, you have to ford it or catch the ferry or, you know.
True. Or get sucked into it. So yeah, I mean.
Drown.
Or you could drown.
You could drown in your depression.
Or you could drown in your happiness.
That's true.
But yeah.
Oh, no, but happiness is a stream.
True.
Yeah.
That's right. Unless.
I get lost sometimes
you
in
get lost in a metaphor.
Yeah.
Or an analogy.
Or
What's a metaphor?
A metaphor is when you say like and as.
Like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
A metaphor is like. Never mind.
I think I'm also pretty simple. Like it doesn't take too much to make me happy. It takes a lot to make me content. So that's kind of.
So would you advocate rather than aiming for happiness that a person should aim for contentedness?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's how I do better with. Content has a level of acceptance to it. I feel like happiness has a level of bullshit.
You can say bullshit.
Okay. I hate when
but
people.
we will bleep it out.
I hate when people in podcasts go, "Can I swear?"
Yeah.
Yes, it's not morning
Do
radio.
you know what a fucking podcast is?
I know. I mean, but some people do want that G rating. So I get it if you don't want to keep bleeping me.
Right. But we are going to bleep you saying bleeping.
Oh, please do.
Yeah. Is it important? Is happiness important? Like, here's let me add to that, because I think one thing that I'm realizing as we're talking about this is that it is an ephemeral concept, and going back to what you said earlier, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, there is no, it's whatever your own baseline is.
Yeah.
And are you above that or below that? Or is it joy? Or you were saying ecstatic before?
Yeah.
Or manic? Or, there's all these different aspects of it. But is it important to feel like I'm kind of happy with the way things are? Or do you just plow ahead no matter what?
Well,
I mean, Job, look at Job. He got fucked over by Satan, and he was still, a fan of God.
well, see, that's actually brings me to some of the. It's interesting.
By the way, this is a religious program.
No, I knew it was. I felt that coming because usually you ease into it after a few minutes. So I talk about Starbucks,
prosperity gospel.
Then it's like Job, and I'm like, oh, I see where we're going. I've heard, and by the way, I have heard the good news, so you don't have to tell me.
Okay, good.
But I think that's a good point because I've never thought about if I think happiness is important, but I'm looking back when I was truly not able to even, probably because of the depression, able to even access true happiness, even for a second, or I don't know. It's all tangled up like wires in a drawer. But there have been times when.
You have a drawer full of wires?
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be a symptom of something.
Well, my mother was attacked by a wire cutter. I don't know.
My mother was a robot. I keep her in a drawer.
I'm just hoping someday to find the right plug. No, but I didn't say I had a drawer full of. I said
like a drawer. Yeah. Okay.
But I actually do, and something that makes me happy is putting
because you can always
ties
go in
on them and
there.
organize
Oh,
them.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's important because when one is happy, and we can call it content or whatever, they're more able to be of service to other people. Usually their world is bigger. If you're depressed, your world gets really small. You can only think about yourself. The negativity breeds more negativity. And you're not even on the road to helping yourself get out of it. So I do think it's important, but it's not important for reasons of feel happy. That's the right way to feel. I just mean usually the opposite of that can bring, it snowballs.
Things get worse and worse.
Things can get worse. Mm-hmm. And there's been times in my life.
All of a sudden you have 2 drawers full of wires.
Oh my God, then you don't even have drawers anymore. Just you're sleeping on a pile of wires instead of sleeping on drawers.
Yeah.
I sleep in a drawer.
You're a tiny person.
I'm a little person. Not like a little person, but I mean like a ton. Yeah.
I got it.
But I think there's been times in my life, but you're talking about with Job, that I'm in a personal amount of stress about like work stuff this year, and yet I've been worse off. Mm-hmm. And I actually was happier then because I had so no choice. I was at the most bottom you could be, maybe in my early 30s, and I had a ton of credit card debt and IRS debt, and I'd been doing comedy for well over a decade, and I was...
Well over a decade.
Well over, at least 12
You had been
years.
doing comedy for over a decade.
No.
Oh.
Well over a decade.
Okay.
Not well. That's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Probably pretty okay for 6 years.
Sure.
And I said something, I had I was just miserable. I can't even explain it. It was just a misery beyond a misery. And then I realized that through a series of work I did on it, I had to get happier no matter what in order to start to come out of this.
Right.
And then I don't know how it worked, but it did happen. It maybe wasn't even happy, but it was a level of like, hey, snap out of it, like a little on the language of gratitude. You have all your limbs at the goddamn least. And then things started to get better in my life. And if you talk to...
that sounds like unkind self-talk, by the way.
What?
You have all your goddamn limbs at the goddamn least.
Well, it's not the best way to be grateful, but it was like sometimes you need a little tough love on yourself. And things about a year later started to pick up or work out. Now, is it because my attitude changed? Probably not. But because my attitude changed, I was able to accept the things that came into my life that kind of helped me financially instead of judging them. I think it opened me. It wasn't a law of attraction, magical thinking.
You could accept the things you could not change and change the things you could. And then where there was one set of footprints, that was Jesus.
Jesus. There was actually a dinosaur footprints.
Oh,
because it was a dinosaur carried Jesus who carried me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's if you know anything about history. I'm sure you do.
I don't.
You're a smart
I didn't know
guy.
that part.
Yeah, yeah. So, but but it was like, I'll give you an example. This is just like going way off the thing. But I thought like my whole life, like I'm gonna write on like the Daily Show. Like I'm a political person and that's my dream. And I was broke and everything was terrible. And I was temping for $10 an hour and I was filing.
That is nothing.
Nothing. And I was filing.
Did they give you a bonus at the end?
Of what? The
like
day?
if you had no, like because when I used to temp, they would go, okay, it's $6.25. This is in the 1930s. It was like it's $6.25 an hour, but if you do 6 weeks, if you make it to the end of 6 weeks, you get a nickel an hour bonus.
Oh no!
Like it was literally like a $25 bonus at the end of 6 weeks if I completed the assignment.
No, I didn't even have that.
No.
And I was filing things alphabetically, and I think they maybe thought something was wrong with me because they were like, "You're so good at that," and I was like, "Oh my god!" But I started. So it was, all that kind of stuff was going on. But I had this goal. I'm going to write on the Daily Show about writing packets, writing packs. Then I hear the show Chelsea Lately, which I'd never heard of. They want writers. And
never heard of it,
I found out what it was, and it was pop culture. I was like, one part of my brain, that's beneath you. But since I'd been sort of working on trying to be
political,
happy and content no matter what, I went, hey, this is an opportunity. And what's the most important thing right now is getting out of this debt and having some self-esteem by earning some money and some health insurance at a job. Like, doesn't matter that this isn't the dream. And I was able to go, I'm not going to judge this. And I wrote the packet. I mean, there would have been a time in my life where I was miserable and unhappy, and a boat came along, very biblical, and said, "Here, why don't you write a packet for that?" That's not what I want. And F you. And then
you don't like boat. You don't like boat comedy.
I do not. Mm-hmm. But you know that parable about the person. This is getting related. It's such a
Is this about when he turned the water into wine?
No. I don't even know where this is.
That wasn't a parable. That was a miracle.
That was a miracle. This might not even be a parable. It's definitely not a miracle either. I think it's just a story. Don't even know if it's in the Bible. Mm-hmm. But there was a guy.
Loaves and fishes?
Nope. There was a guy drowning, or there was a flood, and he's going to drown if he doesn't.
Is this when the scorpion bites the frog?
No, what's that?
It's just he goes, I'm a scorpion. You should have known.
Oh, no, I hate when that one. You should have known. Oh, stop.
Yeah.
No, this guy is, he has faith in God. I have faith in God. I have faith in God. So he's waiting for a big miracle because he's standing on the roof of his house because it was a giant flood.
Right.
And he's, it's sinking. He's going to drown. This guy.
The house is sinking or the water's rising?
Water's rising. That's right. The guy comes by in a little tugboat, barely could fit someone. Uh-huh. He's like, ding, ding, get in. He's like, no.
Sounds like more of like a motorboat than a tugboat.
I'm going to say it was more even like a little paddle boat. Was it picture of babies?
Like those Echo Park things?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Or even picture like a wading pool that a child would be in. Some floating thing floats by. And this guy goes, no, I don't need your thing. I have faith in God. I'm going to be saved. God's going to save me. And the guy's like, okay, suit yourself. Goes away. Piece of wood floats by. This guy goes, get on. He goes, nope, God's going to save me. Guy drowns, gets to heaven. And he's like, God, I thought you were going to save me. I had faith. He goes, I sent a boat. I sent a wood,
Yeah.
So it's not always going to look like how you want it to look like.
That was not a parable. That was actually a story on CNN.
Oh, that was?
Yeah.
Was it during Hurricane Katrina? This is horrible. It was Sean Penn. I sent Sean Penn. You're like, I understand why you didn't want to get in the boat
before he
with
went
him.
after that guy in South America,
I sent Al Chapo.
that drug dealer.
But I think it was one of those things where because I was already in a little bit of happiness,
Right.
I was able to not poo-poo what was being, brought to me instead of going, no, I'm going to wait. I think there's this big thing maybe in America, like, go for your dreams and like don't stop until you get where you want to be instead of like
it's funny
take
because
what's given to you.
Yeah, because you're saying that your initial. Well, I have more questions about that. But
Yeah.
you might have had the reaction initially, which you didn't have, which
Yeah.
is good. Of like, well, this is pop culture. It's beneath me. Who cares?
Yeah, and
You
I
know?
certainly didn't care about filing these things. So I was like,
Right.
I bet I would care about Justin Bieber a little bit more. And it ended up saving my entire life.
Right.
And
Right. It turned out great.
it turned out fine. And then, life goes on. So my point is like right now, I'm not as bad as I was back then, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any, I feel like I don't really see where the next thing is going to come.
Right.
And so it's really scary. And I have to remember, I could use myself as my own example. Hey, idiot. Again, not very nice to myself, but you could go back, Jen, and
I would add a fuck you. Like, hey, idiot, fuck you.
You still have
Look
your
back
limbs.
there. Yeah, your goddamn limbs.
But I could use myself as an example and look back and go, hey, remember when you had 0 and you still found this peace and contentment. And then my brain now goes, you were 33. Different when you're 46.
Same age as Jesus. He didn't have anything before that.
He had nothing.
He had wood.
I feel like there's this sense that sometimes if you're not telling people exactly how you feel, you're pretending. And yet, really, you're just honoring the social contract of not like burdening someone at a party.
Right. People don't really want to hear how you feel.
No,
It's like a nightmare to hear how somebody really feels a lot of the time.
I think so. And I've been actually trying to be more honest lately because I've been away a lot this year and I feel disconnected. So when people ask how I am, I go, I'm fine. I'm working on it. I'm in therapy. But I have to say it's been a really hard year. And I'm like, but I'm great. I'm with you now at this party or whatever.
And they're like, I'm going to take off.
People's first instinct is usually to tell you it's not true how you feel.
Like, you're not having such a bad year.
Yeah, that's right. And I always say, this will not affect you at all. You are not responsible to make me feel better. It makes me feel better to just be seen for 1 second. Now we can talk about anything.
Right.
Because I feel like maybe it's the business we're in or something. If people don't know how you are, they cannot help you. And I don't just mean like in show business, but I had a friend recently who said he wants, he's having trouble meeting people online and he wants to, ask his friends to set him up with people. And he's a gay guy and he finds that like the gay guys online are just more interested in like one night stands and he wants a relationship.
Yeah, I heard gay guys online, just all bets are
Oh,
off.
all they want is the D.
Yeah.
Without the C.
That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true.
I hope anyone listening knows that we're like laughing, joke. You know what I mean? If they're like, these two idiots.
I'm never listening to another episode of this.
And so anyway, he said, I know so many people and they've never offered to set me up with someone. He knows people from all walks of different jobs. He's like the mayor of LA. And I said, he's like the mayor of LA. He's not Mayor Garcetti.
Is he running?
He's not running. Okay. And I said, I bet your friends have no idea that you are unhappy being single or that you're looking. You have to tell them. Mm-hmm. And then that way they can help you. And he was like, it never dawned on me. And I was like, because there's no way. They're probably like, oh, he's fine. And if you said to them, hey, why do you think Joe, just making up a name, Joe is single? They go, oh, he wants to be or he's fine. Like nobody knows anything. Right. And so in a non-burdening.
He seems happy.
Yeah, he seems happy.
He said he's having a difficult year, but he was okay. Then he went on this whole thing about we weren't responsible for him.
Then he recommended a podcast. But so I feel like in a good way, it's okay to it can almost increase your happiness to be honest in the moments where you're kind of on the edge. I'm a big believer in that as well as just go to the party and see if you can get yourself in a good mood.
I feel like you go to a lot of parties.
I know.
Like you're always at parties.
I have literally not been to one party since last Christmas. My sister's friend's Christmas party.
And that was almost a year ago.
That I've not.
No wonder you're having a hard year.
I don't wonder. People are like, is Kirkman on the list?
Yeah.
She's very honest at parties. But, I feel like I just run into people a lot because of do a show or something like that.
Right.
But I'm a big believer in, part of me is a big believer in, if you know your level of happiness is just a mood, then it is possible, unlike with depression, to put on a happy face, and it might actually make you happy by the end of the night. But I also believe if in general you feel a little discontent, a little freaked out, and your happiness is wavering on a daily, weekly basis, it's okay to be honest, even with people you don't see all the time, and just go, if they ask how you are, they fucking asked.
Was there an epiphany moment? Was there a moment where you were like, I have to fix this. I have to change this? Because you kind of alluded to that, but not as a specific moment. But was there a moment where you were like, enough is enough. I'm sick of being unhappy. I'm going to do whatever it takes to stop worrying about my dad.
There was, and I think it was that somebody called me out on it. Someone I don't know. I was at like a gathering of like ladies at somebody's house. And I swear to God, my energy.
Another party.
This time it really was a party. That may be the second to last party I went to, and that was 2003. And, I think my energy was just a giant bummer. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I don't even remember who this was who said it to me. And I feel like, again, it was the difference between kind of picking up on someone's depression, which you wouldn't really kind of go after them at a party and suggest things.
The fuck is your problem?
You snap out of it. But it was...
How's your day going?
I don't even think I knew how to have a conversation without bringing it back to me. Everything's this, blah, blah, blah. I think I was bumming people up.
Right.
And I think this girl was like, so what are you going to do about it? And I was like, I can't do that. Everything you ever said to me, I can't do this because this. And then I'd start spiraling down the thing. I can't do that because of that. And then that. And she was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like...
I'm just the caterer.
As they say, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. I don't even know where that came from, but I see it all the time on Twitter.
It's a classic improv move.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Like two people start a scene and it's really funny and it's a weird conversation and blah, blah, blah. And then somebody comes in off the back line and goes, guys, we're in a space station and it hasn't been established the whole time.
Got it.
And it just changes the whole context of the scene. And everybody's like, the guy in the back line was brilliant. The two idiots in front, not so great.
And it's not really a good move, is it? Because you've just sort of changed it.
You left yourself open to it. You always have to improvise defensively.
Oh, that's true. They should have set it up. So they that's really interesting to think about. Well, yeah, ma'am, this is Wendy's. I see it all the time on Twitter. Right. I'm like, where did that come from? But anyway, they said something about, and I didn't end up, they suggested a book or something. I don't remember the details, but I remember.
Was it the rules?
The rules of dating, yes. No, but it was like, it wasn't the 4 agreements. It was something like that. And it wasn't about like, that I actually went and read some book, but...
Chronicles of Narnia is good.
And it was a Diary of Anne Frank. And they were like, listen, unless you're in an attic. No, but I said, there was something that knocked me out of it. The shame of someone seeing me like that I don't know.
Well, you didn't know, right.
Yeah. Was like...
It's like a big smack in the face.
It was kind of.
Yeah.
Now, there's a million ways that story could have gone. Maybe they're a codependent. They've got boundary issues. I don't know. But it just sort of made me go, oh. And then I thought of all the other times people were trying to say the same thing to me that knew me. It wasn't like she was the only person who ever said this. But I heard it from a stranger and I went, oh, I'm a giant bummer. And then I was like, okay, I have to start feeling a little better. And again, this is like, there's a million layers of therapy. It's not just like this simple. But
no, but that was, just the fact that stands out in your mind is significant.
Yeah.
I have a similar, can I share a similar
Please do.
experience with a different, I remember being a freshman in college and I was terrified because I didn't really know anybody. I didn't have any friends. Literally there's a photo in my freshman year yearbook of me with 2 people I kind of knew before I went away to college. and the three of us and like two of one of their friends. You know what I mean? Like there was like 6 of us online for the dining hall. And the photo is all of them laughing together and having a conversation, and me kind of standing with my back to them, staring off into the distance. Wow. And I'm like, that is exactly where my mind was at that moment. I was terrified.
Wow.
And it's immortalized in the yearbook. But one of those people, two of them, the 2 people I knew were people I had known since I was a kid because their fathers were friends with my father.
Yeah.
And they were both very nice. And I remember just a couple weeks after that, so it's like a couple weeks into freshman year of college, and I'm looking out the window of my dorm and I see this woman and she's walking down the hill and she is just the best person. Like she is one of the greatest people I've ever known in my life.
Oh, okay. So you actually knew her. You're not just...
No, I didn't. I knew her since we were kids.
Oh, okay.
Through family association.
Yeah.
But I got to know her in college, and she turned out to be an amazing, incredible person.
Yeah.
And she saw me in the window, and she was like, "Hey, we're going to a party. Come on, let's go. Come down."
Jen Kirkman's at the party.
Right.
She always is.
She's at every party. And so I went with her, and we went down. And so we're freshmen. We're at this party off campus at somebody's apartment, and I still don't know how to deal with people at parties. Mm-hmm. But back then I was, way worse. So, and she's like super cute and super vivacious. So she's talking to everybody, and I'm guessing she was already dating one of the guys who lived there or something, which is why we were there. And I'm just standing there and I'm like looking out the window, not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
50 people in the room, just a keg party. And this guy comes up next to me and he goes, we're on like the 5th floor of the building, and I'm just looking out the window, and he goes, "You should do it." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "You should jump. Do it."
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so it was a kind of a similar, like somebody saw me and saw who I was, but was like a little bit less.
That's very dark. And you weren't thinking of jumping.
No.
But was he being funny?
I don't know what was going on.
But it seemed like a joke covered in truth. Like he's joking.
I know you're bummed out to be here and you feel uncomfortable, so I'm going to push you further in that direction.
God, you could arrest someone for that now.
I know. It was a different time.
You could just tell people to kill themselves.
I also think about it, and I'm like, what if I did? Imagine that guy had to live with that for the rest of his life.
I almost wish he did only for that.
I don't like hearing that, but at
life.
the same time, it does seem kind of funny,
No, only if you could have come back somehow and lived in the witness protection program or something and been like, I didn't actually die.
There were firemen at the bottom with one of those trampoline things.
Yeah, but we just all decided to make this guy feel like shit for the rest of his life. So my name is Shane Conboy. But yeah, that is a chilling moment.
It really is.
And it really...
When somebody recognizes your deep truth in that moment.
That you don't even know, then you're like, oh, what else do people see?
Right. It was like, I wasn't thinking
central.
about that, but it makes sense that he saw that, Here, I wanted to read you this because I went on a thing last night, the internet, and Psychology Today has a happiness test.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I took it, and it was like a 10-page report.
Holy shitski.
I mean, you had to pay for it. It was $400.
Oh my God. Well, that'll make you unhappy.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Well, it was on a credit card.
Did you have to pay for it?
Yeah, it was like $4 or something.
Oh, okay.
But here's I won't read the whole thing because, like I said, it's 10 pages long. But here's a couple things. One thing is it says you seem, and I don't know if I agree with this, you seem to possess a healthy balance of optimism and pessimism. And that feels like then I'm not either of those things. And I would put myself firmly.
I put you firmly in pessimist.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was weird. I measured a 52 on a scale of 1 to 100 as far as happiness, and that feels probably about right.
Yeah.
But here's another thing it said. It wouldn't hurt to put on rose-colored glasses from time to time.
This is from a psychology website.
Psychology Today, the psychology magazine. Psychology Today.
It sounds a little trite.
And then the last thing is it said, and I actually feel like is pretty observant. If you expect your life to stink, it probably will.
Well, I agree with that.
That sounds like something my therapist would say.
But they use the word stink.
Yeah, if you expect your life to stink,
Yeah.
it probably will.
Well, and I think
It makes me feel like this was written in the 1950s.
yeah, it's
you know?
weird. I think the truth of that is it doesn't mean that you're going to manifest terrible things, but you're just going to feel terrible. And then at a certain point, how do you know if how you're feeling is reality and blah, blah, blah.
Wait, say that again?
I was like, when they say, if you expect your life to stink, it probably will. I don't think they just mean the frou-frou, like you won't manifest good things.
Right.
It means that it will stink if you'll always feel bad no matter what's happening. Right. So how can you tell? But I feel like, and the reason I said you're a pessimist is I don't even know if I even meant the word pessimist, but more just like a realist, like well, what are the facts? Let's not get emotional over here. You know, that kind of thing. I'm
like Joe Friday. I'm like, just the facts, ma'am.
Yes.
By the way, I love hip references like Dragnet.
Yeah.
You know?
And I thought first you meant Joe Friday, like a basic guy. And I was like, that's not what I meant. But then I realized you meant Dragnet. But I do, you're someone that I would go to if I needed, not like calming down in a way, but like, how do we solve this? And I don't believe that you would be pessimistic. I think you would be realistic. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's not negative. And so the optimism, I kind of understand where they did say that you're both, because maybe pessimism doesn't necessarily mean negative. It just means you're not easily fooled. Like you're not going to be taken by a guru or someone who says I'm the savior of this or that. You're balanced.
I'm not going to be taken in by a con man.
That's correct.
I'm going to see him for what he is.
That's right.
Motherfucker.
That's right. And I could see that you would be optimistic that processes could work, but
other
you would not
people would see the same thing.
Yeah, but you would not be surprised if they didn't. It's
Correct.
like that kind of
a realist.
That's what I think. Yeah. A realist.
I'm just going to ask you some things.
Okay.
Here's the first. It's just a few questions. So,
okay. This is not Scientology, right?
No. There's no right or wrong answers.
But there is a little bit.
But, let's see. Okay, here's the first one. Mm-hmm. Which living person do you most admire? Oh, and there's a time element to it too. So
really?
Yeah.
I don't feel like I admire anybody. I mean, I'm just going to blurt it out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. I don't never think about who I admire. Maybe, I don't know, is whoever discovered
radium?
No, like whoever discovered things that relate to me, like whoever discovered I don't know, I want to say like some woman that's a scientist or whoever discovered what panic attacks are, but do you know what came to mind? Madonna.
That's correct. Here's the next question. Puppies or kittens?
Kittens.
That's also correct. Rabbits or chipmunks?
Rabbits.
That's correct. Rabbits or kittens?
Kittens.
That's incorrect.
Wow.
This is a harder one.
Okay.
This is more of a local question. Maurice the Pants Man or Filene's Basement?
Filene's Basement.
Correct.
Is it local to me? Not okay.
To you. If unhappiness were a monster, is the next question. So if unhappiness were a vampire, what would be its garlic? And remember, there is a time element here.
Serotonin, I guess. I mean, that's very clinical, but
that's correct.
GABA and serotonin.
Okay. Here's the last question on this evaluation, and then we'll get a score. What is your idea? What is your idea of perfect happiness?
No fear.
Okay. So I'm going to score you on this.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe I got so many right.
And you scored in the 99th percentile.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I'm just like everyone else.
No, that means only 1% of people did better than you. Or nobody did better than you. I don't remember how percentiles work.
I don't either.
I think you did very well.
Thank you. Really embarrassed about my Madonna answer, but I have to be honest. For some reason,
of
her name
course.
popped in my head.
Of course. If it was wrong, I would have let you know.
Okay, thanks.
Now, we have your score.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I have 2 more questions for you?
Sure.
Here's the first one. Do you mind if I ask you 3 more questions?
I don't.
That's correct. Here's.
I don't think there should be right. I mean, I'm not judging your podcast.
You don't think there should be right or wrong answers?
I don't.
You just went down to the 97th percentile.
Oh my God, I think you're going to make a lot of unhappy people anxious.
Here's the last thing. We do have a playlist on Spotify for this podcast.
Ooh.
A Get Happier playlist.
Oh.
Do you have a suggestion of a song for us to add to the Sean Conroy Gets Happier playlist on Spotify?
Wow, that is a tough question, and I'm there's an instrumental song I love, but I can't think of the name.
You don't know the name of it? Is it Beethoven's Fifth Symphony?
No, it's not classical music. It's like
Flight of the Bumblebee by a fifth of Beethoven?
Oh, that is so good. But
is it the theme from Star Wars?
But a fifth of Beethoven, I believe, is on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Could be.
No, it's no, it is Breezin' by George Benson, which is a great instrumental.
Great.
But the reason I want to say the next one I'm thinking of. I have so many songs that make me happy by artists that I listen to all their music. But there is one band that I do not like. I have all the respect for them. I watched a documentary about them, and I really respect them. It's Rush.
Rush, don't get me started.
And I do not like them at all. Now, I have nothing against them. It just doesn't hit my DNA.
It's horrible music.
Okay, but there's one song of theirs that I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
If you measured it, my love for that one song is greater than a big fan's love for all their songs put together.
Okay.
And it's called The Spirit of Radio. And I put it on, and I cannot just listen to it once. It goes 4 or 5 times in a row, and it's a great open up the windows, drive down the freeway. I don't know what about it is. None of their other music hits me this way, and I'm hesitant to say it because when I talk about this, I get Rush fans going, what about this? What about that? I'm telling you, no.
They both have the same ideas of what both Rush fans have the same idea?
All hundreds of them. But it's called The Spirit of Radio by Rush, and I'm telling you, even if you're not a Rush fan, it might connect on some primal level.
Okay.
But if not, George Benson's Breezin'. I would like 2 songs. Since
You're allowed to have 2.
Okay.
That is correct. So here's what I'll say about Rush.
Yeah.
First of all, they're terrible.
See, I don't know if that's technically true.
I think that they are considered, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that they might be prog rock.
Yeah, I'm not against prog rock.
Which is an awful genre.
Yeah.
They are not the worst prog rock band. That honor goes to Yes.
I don't like Yes.
Who are way worse than Rush. But the other thing I'll say is, first of all, I used to work at the Worcester Centrum years ago.
Oh, no way.
And I was working at a concert that Rush did, and I accidentally walked into their dressing room, and they were not happy to see me. They were not thrilled. So I apologize to all of them.
They were unhappy, if you will.
Yeah.
I saw Nirvana at the Worcester Centrum.
Oh,
Kirkman killed himself 3 months later.
What a great,
Speaking of unhappy.
What a great venue, the Worcester Centrum. That was where a lot of bands used to kick off their tours because they loved it there. I also got in a fight at a Billy Joel concert there, but that's a different story for a different day.
That's a different podcast. Well, anyway, I'm sorry to Rush if they're listening.
No, but here's the last thing I'll say is that I am in an improv group called The Swarm that has been together for over 20 years. And every show, our opening song. They go, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome The Swarm. The song is Spirit of Radio.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I am not.
And I love The Swarm, and I feel like I've seen you guys. Maybe I somehow knew
You weren't
that.
paying attention to that part because you were like, oh my God, it's the fucking Swarm. So why would you be like...
I was like fainting and like,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, see, there you go. Do you like that song then?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I
I'm
feel
sorry
like
you had to
it's-
put up with it
well,
for
I'm not
20 years.
I'm not a classic rock fan,
Oh, okay.
generally speaking.
Yeah.
Only because I was for so long and I'm so tired of it at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
I would rank, yes, pretty high on the list of bands I'm tired of, but number one, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Hollywood Hills?
If I never
that him?
hear any of their, if I never hear any of their...
Hollywood Nights, I mean.
Hollywood Nights.
Do you know that song was not available on iTunes for a long time, and every time I downloaded it, it was some weird cover version of like someone doing karaoke. I disagree. I can listen to that all the time.
Jen Kirkman. Can people follow you? Are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
What's your...
At Jen Kirkman with one N.
Jen, not Jen.
No, JenKirkman.
Jen Kirkman on Twitter.
And the same on Instagram.
And on Instagram. Facebook?
No, I don't really use it. I have a page, like a fan page, but I just post about shows, and I'm going to delete it.
TikTok?
I started one because I do a lot of dancing videos.
I saw one the other day. It was great.
Oh, thanks.
The Baby
It makes
Shark
me happy.
one. Yeah.
And
that's a great, dancing.
Dancing makes me happy.
Yeah.
Although it makes me sad because I actually really didn't want to be a dancer. It didn't work out. But I started a TikTok, then I lost my password, and then I lost the password to the email address I used.
Passwords are a nightmare.
I'm not going to get involved with the TikTok. I am dancing to a Billie Eilish song on there. If people want to find me, I don't even know what I am on there.
On TikTok?
Yeah, but no.
You know, they say a lot of people when they're close to dying, they say, what regret do you have? And one of the number one regrets is, I wish I had joined TikTok. No, one of the number one regrets is, I wish I had danced more.
Are you serious?
I'm completely serious.
Oh, I just want to cry right now.
So you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. Oh,
Jen, thank you for being here. You will always go down in history as the first guest on Sean Conroy Gets Happier.
Thanks. I thought I was going to go somewhere else, but
you will go down in history as a person who admires Madonna.
I know, that's what I'm embarrassed about.
No,
Thank you.
I actually think that's a good one. I like that.
I just was thinking it was like the little kid brain. I couldn't think of the adult brain might say something boring.
Sure, but that's a good one. All right. Well, thank you for being here, and we will see you next time on this show.
I hope you get happier.
The executive producer of Sean Conroy Gets Happier is Lauren Dunitz. The field producer is Pete Galamaga. Our sound engineer is Aaron Brungart. The show was edited by Lauren Dunitz. The show was recorded at All Things Comedy Studios in Burbank, California. Please rate and review the show on iTunes, especially if you have something positive to say. Tell people about the show. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Conroy. Check out our Spotify playlist, Sean Conroy Gets Happier. We take song selections from every guest, so it's starting to become a little eclectic. Please subscribe to our RSS feed. See you next time on Sean Conroy Gets Happier.